Hey all, welcome to your first year of drum lessons, week 22 drum pad edition. My name is Penny Larson and I am really happy to have you with me today. Last week we finished up with our sort of introduction / sampler to the 40 standard Percussive Arts Society Rudiments. But there are a whole host of what are called hybrid rudiments or modern rudiments. And we're going to look at a few of those over the next few weeks because some of them, there's over 500. There's this really cool website, Ninja Drummer, that catalogs a ton of them. There are other resources online where you can find these lists of all these rudiments. And there's so many that if we were to dive into all of them, we wouldn't be able to dive very deeply. So we're going to pick a couple and look at those, but mostly we're going to be done with our kind of rudimental concept, and we're going to start applying things moving forward. But there's a few that we really have to look at. Partly because I think they're cool, partly because I think they're pretty useful and pretty common, right? And it makes sense for us to learn, even though they're not part of the 40 standard. So we're going to start with one of those today, which is called the herta. And we're going to talk about subdivisions on a single beat. We've done a bit of that. We're going to take it up a level and kind of really think about just how many pieces can we carve a beat into. And then finally, we're going to start work on a snare drum solo, which a good chunk of you have probably heard, or at least heard of. It's called Crazy Army. It's a almost 100-year-old solo. It is incredibly well known. There's a very famous version that Steve Gadd does of it. Traditional drum lines use it all the time. There's some modern drum and bugle corps cadences that are based off of Crazy Army. So we'll start looking at that. That is going to use 7-stroke rolls and flam taps and flamiccues. So, like I said last time, we're going to start applying some of those rudiments that we've been learning. But first, let's talk about subdivisions. So I cheekily called this a quarter to 10 subdivisions. And the quarter is, we're going to start with whole notes. And whole notes are a quarter of the note per beat, right? And then we're going to go up to 10 notes per beat, which are just groups of 10. There are some names that people use for things like these, like tuplets. When I was younger, I was just taught to call them artificial groupings, like so fives, I'd call them artificial groupings of 5. I've heard people call them fivelets. Quintuplets is pretty common. 7s are septuplets. This is pretty common, right? 8 is just 32nd notes, right? And then 9s and then 10s. We're also going to have half notes, half note triplets, quarter notes, quarter note triplets. So half notes would be half a note per beat. Half note triplets are 2/3 of a note per beat. Quarters obviously are 1 note per beat. Quarter note triplets are 1.5 notes per beat. And then we get up to where it gets a lot more whole number per beat. So we've got 2 and then 3, 4, 5, and so on. Let's do this with the metronome, and let's talk about a couple of the trickier ones, and then we'll play the whole thing down. The first one we should start with is groups of 5, or quintuplets. And remember that when we're playing an odd note grouping, I have an even number of hands, so the odd note grouping is going to change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so I'm going to start this out by just playing quarter notes, alternating. And I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, da 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 da. Whatever you have to do to figure out how to get 5 even notes there. These odd note groupings are a feel thing. Really, rhythm in general, once you get past the basic, 1 note per beat or like 2 notes per beat, and it's very simple, up, down, it's either right or it's wrong. Once you get past that, a lot of these things are feel. Triplets, 3 notes per beat. That's kind of a feel thing. You have to feel your way into 3 even notes per beat. It's the same thing with the 5s and the 7s. So let's put on the metronome. I'm going to be at 80 beats per minute, which I think is a reasonable tempo to get all the way to 10 notes per beat. It's a little quick, but it's reasonable. So let's start. We're going to start with just the 5s. So I'm going to start with the quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If at first you need to accent the downbeat a little bit, remember that that's not what we're shooting for. We want all the notes to be even, but if at first it helps you to dig in a little bit, and then to get rid of it, that's fine. Okay, remember, eventually we want all the notes to be even, but if you need to accent at first a little bit, that's perfectly normal. Let's look at the 7s. The 7s are the same idea, but a little bit faster. The way I think of these, I can't really count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's just going too fast. So I think 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. But the way that I sing that is daka 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 daka, right? Daki 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 ta daki 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 ta. I'm accidentally bumping into an uneducated Greater Boston version of that sort of Indian syllable thing, conical. I've done this since I was, little, and I'm just using sounds to kind of keep myself in my place. So like I say, it's not, when I hear people do conical, which if you don't know what it is, that's an Indian counting with syllables that's incredibly advanced and incredibly cool. When I hear people do that, I think, oh, kinda, yeah, I get that, that makes sense. And so even though I haven't studied that and I don't know those syllables really well, when I hear myself do daka 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 daka, it sounds, and I'm keeping track of daki daki daki, right? That the 3 is different. Datu 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 datu, and I can change the sound a little bit, which kind of proves that I'm not doing something as standardized as conical. But so let's try the 7. I'm going to start the same way. I'm going to do the quarter notes, and then we'll add the subdivisions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Same thing, you can use the accents at first if you have to. 3, 4. As long as you take them away at the end, right? We're going to do 2 more before we play the whole thing. The groups of 9 are groups of 3 on 8th note triplets. So if I was playing 8th note triplets, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, I need to put 2 notes in between each note of the 8th note triplets. I'm going to do that at first, just so we can hear how it sounds, with 2 notes with my left hand. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. 1 triplet, 2, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And so if I accented that a little bit, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Let's try that with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Finally, the groups of 10, I find pretty easy because if I was counting to 10, they would be crazy. But I'm counting to 5 with my right hand, and then I'm filling, so 5 16th notes, and then I'm filling in the 32nd notes with my left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Right? So with the metronome, just my right hand first. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And like I said, the 10 is right on the edge. If you notice, I had to switch to finger control technique to really play those. When I play the whole exercise, I'm going to try to keep my more wrist finger technique. Switching back and forth like that can be a little weird for keeping the notes even. So let's try to play through this. Okay. As always, this exercise will be down below as a PDF for you to print out or look at on your tablet or your phone or your laptop or whatever. This will give you a good kind of grasp of how much we can really cut a beat up, right? If you can play all of these subdivisions, then kind of any rhythm is possible, right? Once you can play all of these subdivisions, then it's just a matter of combining them in different ways. And, you know, by including 5s and 7s and 9s and 10s, we're really going kind of crazy on our deep dive into subdivisions, right? Okay, so let's give this a try. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay, so the more you do it, the more you get used to that shift. Once you're comfortable playing through the notes in this order, you can mix them up and get used to going, you know, from fives to triplets to 30-second notes to, you know, nines. The more comfortable you are shifting from, especially kind of the extreme subdivision shifts, the better off you're going to be in the long run, right? You're going to see rhythms that just aren't going to bother you because you've practiced that rhythmic shift. Okay, this is one that will be fun to work on for as long as you drum. Going through these subdivisions is a nice way to just make sure that you're keeping track of the beat and the subdivisions of the beat, and seeing where, you know, the sixes and the threes are related, and the fives and the tens are related, and the triplets and the nines are related. When you see those, you know, those relationships, they all start to make more sense, and shifting from one to the other becomes easier. The next thing we're going to talk about today is hertas. I've seen hertas spelled a couple different ways. I've never been able to find either the etymology of the word herta or where this rudiment came from. When I was a kid, I never heard this word, and then all of a sudden in my 20s, everyone was talking about hertas, and I don't know where it came from. So if any of you all know where it came from, please leave it down below in the comment section. I've done a few Google dives looking for it, and I've never been able to find it. Not the biggest deal in the world. It's a herta. Everybody calls it a herta. Big deal. Okay, that's what it is. So what is it? Well, it's this figure right here. 2 short notes and then 2 long notes. And the thing about 2 short notes and 2 long notes is when you play that, it almost sounds like 3 short notes and 1 long note. Da 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 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, right? But really it kind of sounds like 1 2 3 1 1 2 3 1 1 2 3 1. So the rhythm here, we're in 12/8 at the beginning. This first one is 1 and 2 3 1 and 2 3 1 and 2 3 1 and 2 3, right? But that 1 and 2 sounds like 1 and 2, sounds like a group of 3 notes, right? So be aware of that as you work on these. Even though it's 2 quick notes and 2 long notes, it kind of sounds like 3 and 1. Digga-da-da, digga-da-da, digga-da-da. Okay? So we're going to look at these in 2 different ways. The first is more straightforward. We've got, I'm going to set us up just with regular 8th note triplets. Then we're going to do herta with the 2 quick notes, 2 short notes on the beat. 1 and 2 3 1 and 2 3 1 and 2 3 1 and 2 3. Next we're going to do the 2 quick notes in the middle. 1 2 and 3 1 2 and 3 1 2 and 3 1 2 and 3. And then finally on the 3. 1 2 3 and 1 2 3 and 1 2 3 and 1 2 3 and. And we're going to do this, each measure repeating by itself, and then we'll do the whole thing. I've written in 2 stickings. There's a million stickings you could do for this. The easiest one is just read it backwards, right? So the first sticking is all alternating, and then the second sticking is the hertas are going to be double strokes. And just start with your left and start with your left, and suddenly now we've got 4 stickings. But there are lots of other stickings that make sense too, that you might want to experiment with. Hertas are incredibly versatile. That's why they've become such a common hybrid rudiment, because they're just that versatile. So I'm going to put the metronome on at 90 for this. Not too fast, a little faster, just so we can hear what we're doing and just so we can hear it with the beat. So I'll start with the triplets, and then I'll play the hertas on the beat and on the second note and on the third note, and I'll just shift through every 4 bars. One, 2, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. 3, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. Counting like that is much harder than playing them. So now I'm going to do it, and I'm just going to play one measure of each. And first I'll do the single sticking, and then we'll stop and we'll talk about it in a second, and then we'll do the double sticking. So this is again the alternating sticking. 1, 2, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Okay, so the second version with the doubles, rhythm is the same, obviously, but now in that second measure, instead of, I've got, and now because I'm doing doubles, they alternate, right? So then the third measure is, and the fourth measure. And so I'll do this 4 times of each measure just so you can see how that goes. 1, 2, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And now one measure of each variation. 1, 2, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So I think the triplet-based hertas are pretty straightforward, right? They happen on the beat or on one of the 3 partials, and they happen regularly on each beat. Number 2, I'm going to be playing the hertas as groups of 2 32nd notes and 2 16th notes in straight 16th notes. So now the group of it's functioning like a group of 3 16th notes, right? Because the 2 32nd notes counts as 1 16th note. And then I have 2 16th notes. So I've got 1, 2, 3. But 16th notes don't happen in groups of 3. They happen in groups of 4. So the herta rolls over the beat. This is why hertas can be so cool, like on the drum set, in drum beats and stuff, because they create this rolling kind of pattern. And you can do things to fix them to land on the beat, or you can just keep them going over the whole bar. And that's what we're going to do. So it takes 3 measures for the herta to come back to where it started. Okay? And I'll just play through that with the metronome so you can see how that sounds. Remember, we're going to go from triplets to a 16th note bass, so it's also going to start out feeling faster. We went from 3 notes per beat to now we're going to be doing 4 notes per beat. 1, 2, 3 Iana, 4 Iana. Right, pretty cool. It's a reason hertas are such a popular hybrid rudiment. They're just super fun. So now let's try that same thing, and we're going to do doubles, the same as we did with the triplets. And now that double is going to be rolling against the beat like the single strokes were. 1, 2, 3 Iana, 4 Iana. Yeah, I love this stuff. So let's talk really quickly about what could I do to make each of these measures just be a measure long. So in number 2, the second measure, instead of doing and ending on beat 4 as 2 32nd notes, I can do. Let me play that with the metronome. So this is just going to be the second measure. So that means I'm going to end up landing on my left hand because I'm suddenly introducing a hand switch in here. Let's check out how that goes. So the second measure in number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also take out the last 2 hertas, not just the last 1.5, right? So you can play and land on 4, like so, 2, 3, 4. Right? And you can do the same thing with lines 3 and 4 of number 2. you can shorten how far you play the hertas against the beat, and then you have suddenly a one measure pattern. And we'll talk about some of these things on Friday on the drum set, about using hertas in fills and in beats too, but ways that they go against the beat for a second, but not, you know, it has to be a very special case indeed for you to be able to go for three measures against the beat, right? That's a very special song or a very understanding band or a drum solo, right? And so if we're going to use hertas more in more common musical settings, then we want to have ways to get into them and get out of them quickly. So that's your introduction to hertas. Welcome to hertas. It's a very cool little rhythm. Like I say, I understand why it's become something that everyone talks about and everyone knows. I am curious about where the heck they came from. Okay, and last for today, we're going to learn the first two lines of Crazy Army. And like I mentioned, Crazy Army is 7-stroke rolls and flam taps and flamacus and flamadiddles. You've probably heard this before. Like I mentioned, Steve Gadd has a very famous version of this. Lots of drum lines use this as a cadence or as a basis for their cadence with slight variations. It is a well-known march. So let's talk about what's going on. We've got a 7-stroke roll and then another 7-stroke roll to start. And then a flamacu. And then that flamacu goes into a flam tap, into another 7. And now paradiddle, flamadiddle, and then another flamacu, and then the second line, that was that left flam, and now I start with the 7-stroke roll, right? And then more flamadiddles, flam taps. And we've got to repeat, so we go back to the top. And this is going to be all we're going to do for today. It's just this A section. There's a lot of repeating in this, so next week we'll be able to wrap this up pretty quickly, but let's take it one piece at a time. So from the top, letter A, that triplet, that 7-stroke roll is a pickup, right? And a 1, right? And it's a march, so it'll be a little bit quicker than that. Let's think about where a march might be. Good jump, right? About there. 1, 2, 1, 2. So either really difficult or piece of cake. If you were keeping up with all those rudiments, 7-stroke roll, flam taps, flamadiddles, flamacu, there's nothing here that should be like freaking you out, right? Right? I've literally worked on this with students who can barely play double stroke rolls, and even painfully slow, it should still have a little bit of that swagger, right? This is very much a swagger drum cadence, right? It's got attitude. There's a reason this is, like the hertas are super popular because of course they are. This is super popular because of course it is. Okay? So take your time with it. Don't rush. Okay? Let's play this at 60 beats a minute, just to prove how even very, 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 very slow, it can still sound cool, and there's no excuse to not make all these notes even. 1, 2, 1, 2. Remember when we worked on flammecues, I told you it was really important to get that. This is the type of place where that little kick on the E really, I mean, that's what makes this thing so funky. If it was just, you know, flam taps and flammadiddles, and even the 7-stroke roll, right, that's all cool. It's that flammecue that really gives this its swagger. Right, that flammecue. If you haven't fallen in love with flammecues yet, fall in love with flammecues. They will be incredibly helpful to you when you want to add a little bit of spice or swagger or funk or whatever you want to call it. That little kick on E is just so cool. Yay, flammecues. Okay, so I'm only playing the first half of part 1 for you this week because I want you to take your time with this. I want you to play this well. I don't want you to learn Crazy Army from me and play it like crap. Okay, so straight up, right? Crazy Army is very recognizable. If you play it, people will recognize it, and they'll know if you're playing it sloppy. Okay. I will leave links in the doobly-doo to Steve Gadd's version. I will leave a couple links to more traditional versions of it so you can hear how it sounds both on a drum set and on like these nice old field drums, right? So you will have me demonstrating it, but you'll also have people playing it like for reals, right? Okay? So no excuses. Don't play this one sloppy. Okay, if you've kind of been rushing through our lessons up until now is a place to like go, oh, wait, right? Don't rush through this. Play it well, please. Rushing through exercises isn't awesome, but sometimes it can be okay. Rushing through pieces is not okay, right? When we learn actual pieces of music, whether they're drum solos, snare solos, beats, or songs, or whatever, rushing through those just, I mean, why did we even bother, right, if you're going to rush through them? So, but that's going to wrap us up for today. And next time we'll finish up with Crazy Army, and we'll do some other stuff too. On Friday, we will talk about some subdivision stuff on the drum set, and we will also talk about hertas. and we might talk about one or two other things as well. But that's going to wrap us up for today. I hope you all enjoyed today's lesson, and I hope to see you all on Friday. All right. Yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Take care. I love you guys.